Bum, 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 bum. Hi friends, so today I'm gonna do a quick review of scandipwa theme. It will include the components of new version 2.0 version of scandipwa, and we will take a look on recommended setups and how to do it correctly. So let's start with your app code design. Yeah, so this is the theme which is created by installer. The installer is located here, so you can take a look on scandipwa installer, which main job is to copy files from the vendor folder to your folder, by which installing the project. So as you may see here, we have copied inside the installer has copied for us some assets, public assets for your needs, configurations here, cool. JS configs, which is useful for your code editors. It has copied the package JSON, which with all the scripts. We will talk about them a little bit later. It copied the process.yaml file for PM2 process. And yeah, so let's start with configuration. So here you might find the Webpack development config, which will be the main config running for you while developing. If you are using the Docker setup from us, the Docker setup from us is scandipwa.scandipwa base. Yeah, so this is the Docker setup of ours, and it includes the Docker setup for you. So if we check my terminal now, we will see that the DCF is the alias of mine. So if I see the running processes now, we will take a look here, and yeah, we'll see that the frontend is now running. The frontend service is eventually a Webpack development server, which runs the PM2 watch process of npm, and you might see that it runs the process.yaml, which runs the dev server and watch dev server. What those two do? So dev server is eventually a Webpack dev server running while watching the Webpack development config, and the forever means that if it fails, it will restart. And dev server, watch dev server is eventually another watching program, yeah, which watches the .js and .scss files, which restarts all forever processes, which means that while this one is running, yeah, it's all good. When you create additional file, when you create, not modify, only create, yeah, it will restart all the compiler. Why this is done? Because if not doing this, if simply running watch, yeah, simply running dev server, while we have, because we have the Fallback Plugin, yeah, which rewrites files, it won't simply function. Because, yeah, when you create a new file on top, while Webpack was already referencing a previous file from vendor, it will fail to override, and you must restart the dev server in order to get it back working. Okay, so clear with that. Now about Fallback Plugin. What is a Fallback Plugin? Fallback Plugin is essentially a plugin which allows you to fall back to file if it doesn't exist. So if we override the file on top of vendor files, how to do it? We just have to put the file in the same directory as it previously was. So let's add additional folder to my workspace, and this will be the vendor folder. So if we go to scandipwa video, which is my current folder, I go to vendor, I find here the scandipwa, and I choose the source as a destination. I click add here, and you might see that I got my source here. So now I have pwa, which is my current folder, and source. You might see that the structure of files here and here is very similar. So yeah, I have application here, application here. If I go inside here, I have only the route. And if I go here, I have much more of components, queries, and so on. So let's quickly take a look at them. So all the project starts with this file. This is the index.js, which is an entry point to an application. It defines a provider for Redux and app router as as child component of it. So uprouter is this file. It's index.js in router, and it's a little complex while very rewritable. So it includes some switch items, yeah, some items before router and some items after router, yeah. Eventually here you declare your routes, yeah. So for example, for the slash route, we have the home page showing, and that's cool and awesome. Now, if we take a look on how why routes is different from components, that's only because it's easier to navigate. So if you want to find a page, you go to routes. If you want to find a component on this page or on any other place in the application, you go to component folder. But essentially the structure, internal structure of the component and route is very similar. So they have the component, which is now the cart page, for example. Yeah, we're looking at a cart page. Cart page is a component. It has some render methods, and those render methods include some displaying and references to props. And in order to efficiently manipulate the props, we have the containers, which allow you to define some additional functions for your components. So for example, this container handles the update of the parent component and changes the breadcrumbs. And it also changes the header state, which is a new feature of version 2.0. So yeah, we have a container which wraps around the cart page, and we have a cart page component which is specifically responsible for rendering information. Cool. What else? This file also includes the styles, and styles are same rewritable as the styles could be similar rewritten by just placing a file with the same name. I will show how to do later. And the file folder of component also includes the index.js, which is simple export of, it's simply forwarding the default export of page container or page component, depends on if you have a container in your setup. Yeah, so that's great, that's cool. We have the routes and components. Just to prove my idea, the structure is pretty similar. Yeah, we see that there is a component with only the render methods, and there is a container including all the logic behind. Yeah, so you might see that here is located the adding to cart logic, because we are an add to cart component. Yeah, and we pass some functions and props to the child component. Yeah, here for example is disabled is passed, and we can take a look here and find is disabled being used here. Very cool, great. Now, those were component and routes. We also have queries. Queries are little different beast. They allow for querying the GraphQL. So you see that we have a product list query, which is initialized by calling the get query. By the way, the underscore methods are so-called private methods, which are not recommended to call. Yeah, we cannot scope the functions in JavaScript. We cannot say that they will be public or private. So we are using the naming conventions in order to sort such kind of issues. So yeah, this product list query has a public method get query, and it gets some products field. Yeah, the products field get products fields, and so on. Yeah, so those are the queries, and those are simple to write because you can take any of those methods, put the file in the same directory, yeah, extend this class, and yeah, and one thing here, take a look. This class exports a new instance of an object, which means that to rewrite it, you need to import not the product list query as default, but the product list query as class, because yeah, otherwise you won't be able, and you must export a default. Yeah, so you must export a default instance of an object. Cool, great. So those are queries. And we also have a store. Store is eventually a place which is responsible for breadcrumb, for global state manipulation. And here you might see all the reducers not available. Those are not really reducers, those are folder containing reducers, but those group together. So if we take a look on breadcrumbs, they have a reducer inside. The reducer is responsible for managing out the state updates from actions dispatched. Actions are simple declarations. They are kind of the interface of actions that will be called later on while the project runtime, yeah. And we also have a dispatcher. Dispatcher is an invention of ours. This is the class. You might see once again that it exports the instance of it by default. This is done so you can easily rewrite it later on. Yeah, it exports the breadcrumbs dispatcher. So if you want to rewrite it, you once again need to export like this, yeah, in the curly brackets, and export the new instance of an object. Yeah, but this file is really the responsible file for the updates. The methods of this file is being called to update the state, yeah, and this is like a place which handles the updates, yeah. So cool. Great. This is the store, and also has an index. Index is just the forwarding of some different exports, yeah, from the files inside, yeah, to the other components. So you can reference them simply by store/breadcrumbs. So you can get all of those guys. Very cool. Nice. We also have types. Types are just useful things to declare prop types. We have some common prop types like mix. It's a BAM mix. BAM is the block element modifier class organizing system of ours, which helps to really have a very beautiful way of organizing styles. We really recommend you sticking with it. We have history type, which is the history, location, match, children type, and so on. So those are basically common types, and you can also override them by importing all of them and changing one of them and exporting it back. So yeah, menu types, so on, those are very similar in structure, nothing to really see here. And we also have utilities. Utilities are helping functions, yeah, which you call sometimes to to help you better use your code. So here, for example, is a product utility, and it has some methods inside, yeah, which are also exported. So you might use those, and yeah. Cool. So those are utilities. The interesting utility you must get familiar with is the request utility, because it's really everything you need to make requests. And here we have a request, yeah, and exports out of it the execute post and listen for broadcast and execute get. So those you use in order to make a request. So get is used for all the cacheable things and entities, and it takes 3 parameters: the query object, which you can create by using the query here by query util and fields stuff. And here you have your name, cache TTL. Name is the name of model of for service worker to send broadcast updates to, and this is useful when you want to immediately give back the data to the client while still waiting for the server to give you a real data, latest data, and then you update this data with the broadcast. And cache TTL is the cache time to live in seconds for service worker to cache responses. And this is also used sometimes in some setups for varnish. So yeah, count on this and put it, put here some real value like month, date, etc. Yeah. So this is the request. In the request file, we also have such thing as a query dispatcher. Query dispatcher is a dispatcher type, the type of dispatcher for store, yeah, which makes it easier to make requests. As you may see here, it does some interesting things with promises. This is the cancelable promise of ours. Yeah, it's additional utility. It allows to cancel request promises. Here we have some wrapping around, and if we extend this file for our needs, yeah, we will just implement a few methods like prepare a request, on success, or on update, or on error. So eventually, yeah, this is the this is the abstraction for making requests and updating the store. And we might see, for example, in category that the category dispatcher is extending the query dispatcher and implements only on success, on error, and prepare request methods. And in prepare request, we just need to return back the query or array of queries. On error, we just handle the error. And on success, we simply handle the success, so it's pretty easy. And you might see this that the name of the broadcast event we pass here in this super method of this constructor, and the time to live is also being passed here, and the query dispatcher receives them and puts them to this. So pretty simple mechanism. We also have some additional things like mutation, fetch mutation, and some other low API wrappers, which are not really recommended to use at this point, because we have an execute post, we have an execute get. Those are preferred ways. Oh, not really. I see that. So those are low level APIs. Please don't use them. But fetch query and fetch mutation are for making a post requests when you need to. For example, you need some post request to get customer data, and this is not cacheable request. So you do execute. Instead of execute get, you do fetch query or fetch mutation. It's just wrappers around the entities like mutations and queries. There is a utility called query. Query utility is eventually an implementation of GQL tag. So you might be familiar, if you have been ever working with GraphQL, that it has some schema. Let me show you how it might look like. So here is some schema for... Wait a second. So here we see a schema for GraphQL request. It has, for example, the category. It has category type and some fields additional in it. So this is called field, this is called arguments, and this is called additional fields, so children fields. And if we take a look on some query, let's take a look on, for example, let's take a look on some... Oh, wait, I moved something. Okay, it's fine. So let's take a look on query, for example, on some simple like CMS block. And no, let's take a look on CMS page better. Okay, cool. So here you might see that we are requesting a field called CMS page. And if we compare it, if we compare it with a schema, we can search here for CMS page. So here is a CMS page field. And we are creating it here, and then we are adding the URL key as argument. So we see that the argument is being added of type string, and we map it to option. So those are options. We map to ID of those options. Nice. And we request arguments like title, content heading, which are available here. So you might use it later on. And if you would like to extend it, you just simply rewrite this method and you return only necessary values. You might also call super get page fields, so you can adjust the return value of parent of the original CMS page query. Cool. So those were the queries and some very helpful utilities, which you might find useful to use. We just talked about the promise. Promise is promises of ours. Sometimes you need to cancel a promise, but it's impossible to do simply. So we have a wrapper for promise, which allows to cancel it. So this is the wrapper. You call it like make cancelable promise, blah, blah, blah. And then the promise becomes cancelable and you can cancel it at any time. So the resolve won't be called. And if resolve won't be called, then you can, then this means that your functionality won't be called, so you can handle some, for example, if user types a search and he types, but you made a request for his three words, but he typed already the fourth, then you can request cancel the 3-word search and make search for the fourth word. Cool. This is the utilities. You might be interested in them, so go take a look. Very useful. We have some very like core components which are not really the not for style, not for some functionality or business logic display. There are like UI components, and those include field. Field is the field component which can render a multiple types of fields. Those are text, number, radio, checkbox, text area, password, select. Yeah, and we might see them in work. For example, if we go to the checkout, let me add some product into the cart. You might see that, oh, I don't have some images. Oh, I have images. Cool. So I have images. Very, very, very beautiful. Yeah. So let me add a product to a cart, and let's see. Oh, I cannot add this one because that's an interesting point. So you might find out that some attributes are invisible here, and attributes are invisible because eventually some attributes might be invisible due to the visibility on frontend property of theirs. Yeah, I cannot access the admin because I had set up it too quickly, and now I'm unable to go into secure mode. So I will demo it on the demo website of ours. Cool. So if we go to the woman category and we open some pullover, we add it to cart, we go to the checkout, and we see here the fields of ours. For example, the country field, yeah, we see that it's now a select. When you click on it, you can search for a letter. For example, I'm now in Latvia, so we'll search for Latvia. I found Latvia, I can select it. So this is select, this is a simple input. Yeah, we have some interesting input types, like for example, here, this is the number input type, so I can type numbers in. Here is the maximum implementation of, so I cannot type 100, I can type only 99. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I can decrease, I can increase. So this is the field component. It allows for input type rendering with wrappers like labels. Let me show you the wrappers eventually. So it wraps with a label with the message, and the message can be controlled by you, or it can be controlled by a form. So the form is a component which is currently in development, but it works here. It will be extended with the form portal. Form portal will allow you to use it. So yeah, let me show you how it works. If we go, for example, to checkout shipping step, yeah, we can go here, checkout shipping step. We might see that this method, this has a render method. In render method, we have a form, yeah, and this form renders some additional things in it. And this form component allows you to submit the form and get all the inputs back to you and validate them if the validation prop has been passed to the field. So if field has a validation prop and the form has been submitted, the input will be validated and the form will re-render all its children while passing the correct validation message to the field. So in action, this can be seen here. If we, for example, choose some country, choose this one, press here, we see that the message has been added to all these fields, and those messages, those validation messages, could be seen in let me go for form. In form config file, here is the email validation, password, telephone validation, not empty validation, etc. So if you pass validation here, the validation is, let me see, the prop not validation, but let me check how it's called. Maybe I'm forgetting something. Checkout, order summary, no. Checkout shipping step looks fine to me. Let's go to checkout shipping step. Let's go to input map. So here is the input map, and it has Validation, yeah, so it's validation. Yeah, but there is no references to it in field because I think that's an issue and should be reported. Cool. So this is the form and field components of ours. We also have an interesting component called Draggable, which allows for hand touch and for mouse and touch manipulations. And it has an interesting API like on drag. Yeah, you see it has on drag start, on drag end, on drag, and it's useful when implementing a slider. Slider is one of additional UI components. Yeah, so this is our slider, and it's written on top of draggable component, like here you see. Yeah, and it's purely responsible for rendering the children's slides. And you might see the implementation of this slider if we go into home slider, for example, and this is the home slider, and it simply calls a slider and maps all the children inside. So children are figures, so we can simply render figures, and then we see it in action here. This is the home slider. Currently has no slides, so it doesn't slide, but the product page is product gallery is implemented in the same way, so you can also slide them. Another thing which I would like to point out is the slider doesn't implement any breadcrumbs or thumbnails. So thumbnails and breadcrumbs should be implemented additionally. So if we take product gallery in account, here we can see that we render the slider and we render additional pictures, and those additional pictures are eventually simple buttons which change the active image of a slider. So the breadcrumbs and the thumbnails should be implemented additionally. And here you might see also breadcrumbs. Let me see, gallery map this render slide. So this is a render slide method. It makes a fragment image and the small image. This is the item prop of a product. Maybe it implements breadcrumbs. Let me see, I might be wrong. So let me inspect the element and I'll tell you 100% whether it implements breadcrumbs or not. Yeah, you see that this element has a class called slider, and if any class starts with a slider, then if any class, the first word with a capital, starting with capital letter is eventually a reference to a component. So if we see here that this component starts with a slider, then it 100% is implemented in slider. So we can go in slider and find it here. It was slider crump. And if we go for a crump, yeah, we can see that there is an element called crump, which is being rendered. So pretty neat thing. And pretty easy to reference. This is one of the reasons why we eventually use BAM. So you might also, to prove this concept, we might see that this is product gallery image, and if we open the product gallery, we will 100% find this image in it. So product gallery.component, and we've searched for image, yeah, and image is in such way, yeah. So we find this product gallery image here. Cool. I think it's cool. I think it's very useful and it makes it easy to navigate through the project. I also recommend using, I'm sorry, I quit my project, that's funny. I really recommend using the VS Code as your editor, because we use a lot of features of it. Yeah, first of all we prepare the JS config for you, so you can easily go through the components. And for example, if here we reference the source route, we can navigate to it. Yeah, it's interesting and simple concept. Also, the GS config is pretty useful stuff, and we will expand our editor tools later on with aliases, like for example as component. Let me choose the JavaScript. The JavaScript version, it's currently in development, but eventually we will soon have our own VS Code plugin, which will allow you to quickly write some code and extend or rewrite components. So yeah, we had just looked into the application internal structure, and we we were looking on slider and draggable component. Additionally, we have an expandable content. Expandable content is eventually a component which allows for expanding and hiding the content. So like here, we can expand and close this down. Expand and close, expand and close. Cool. Same here. This is the same component. Yeah, just another color. Neat, useful, interesting. This is expandable content. We also have the header, which is currently a UI component, a complex UI component because it has a history. So let me showcase you how it works. If we go here and we choose this one and we search for header, and now we navigate between pages. Why it's not updating? Interesting. Maybe because it's okay. Let me delete it. So eventually, yeah, when I open something, the header state should change, and it's definitely is changing. So here happened the change header state. It's was home, now it's PDP. Now it looks like something is wrong here. Maybe the Redux DevTools don't work. Oh, of course they don't work because here on demo those are disabled. They will work on my local machine. So if we inspect the element, yeah, and we go back here, we can see that let's filter for header state. We were on the PDP. Yeah, it was 81 Kashmir pullover in a title, and we switched back, and we can simply jump to it if you would like to. You see, we can go back and this will show the PDP state, but then we jumped here, and let me reload so it will be all fine because I'm hoping I'm not broken anything. So we was in category by default, and then we applied the title to this category. So this doesn't affect, changing title doesn't affect the header state. And if we go back here, we change the state to the home page, and we now have a history state with where the home page is located. If we open the menu, we see that the menu is now in a header state. If we go to the subcategory, we see that we are in the menu subcategory. And if we go back, for example, yeah, we can see that go to previous header state being triggered, and the name was switched back to menu, and the menu subcategory was removed from the history. And yeah, this allows for some interesting navigation throughout. Yeah, it allows for search, and the header state is always changing. The interesting part with this is the in cart, where you can change the header state on the go. In filters, yeah, when you select some filter, you can then drop it out. So header is very neat and useful, and it's part of our UI idea. And when you were seeing there, we were changing the header name, from menu to search. It was toggling those guys, the state map. And from PDP name, which we were seeing, the PDP includes the back button, the title, and the mini card. And if we see here, if we go to PDP, it's a back button, title, and a mini card. If we go to category, it will be back, menu, title, and mini card. Back to category, it's back, menu, title, and mini card. Cool. And this is the same for all of them. So if we go and see how it renders, let me see how it renders. So we got our header method, this render header state, and here we map our state map, to the render function of it. We also have this. Let me show you. Here's the render map. So each of those guys, close, title, edit, are mapped to the rendering function of it. So for example, edit is this render edit button, and render edit button is visible or not visible, and you can hide it with mods of BAM. So it's is visible or is not visible, and you can see it's in action here. So if we investigate this button, it's currently, let's see this button better. So it's a close button, and the close button is currently not visible. So there is no is visible mod on this header button element. But if we go to the menu, you might notice that this is now visible, and we have a style applied to it. And notice how beautiful is the implementation. For example, here, if we go to close, you can see that it is visible on all of the buttons, and you can notice that here there is no nesting except those positions where you need to reference all the internals. But for buttons, for example, there is no nesting, so button is visible, does button visible, applies button visibility, and on close, we can see that we include some close buttons. And an interesting thing is that we have icons, which are all CSS. So everything you see here is purely CSS written. So even this element is pure CSS magic, not really magic, but yeah, those are some box shadows, borders, etc. So that's a recommended way to go, and I really appreciate people who are doing their icons in pure CSS. Very great people, really love them. You can also use, for example, like we do here, I believe there is clip path used somewhere, and yeah, so there are a lot of possibilities how to style an element with CSS without importing any assets. So that's cool, that's great. This was a header with its own state, and header has a container, as you might see here, and it gets something from global, from the application store. And you might see that here, for example, there is a show overlay, hide active overlay header state, which we have just seen, and go to previous header state, which we also have seen. And speaking about overlays are also an interesting thing, because eventually, let's go to overlay component. Overlays are a friends of ours which allow to overlay content to all the page. For example, this, by toggling this one, we open an overlay. By toggling this one, we open an overlay. Then we close it, and overlay has a feature that only one of them could be opened per page. So if we reload, and we can see that the menu is opened. Now we click on a search, only search is opened. Now we click on my account, only my account, on cart, only cart. So it's one per page. And this allows for very beautiful mobile animations, like you click here, you show this. You click on filters, you open filters. This is also an overlay. If you click here, you can show it here. Amazing. These are the overlays, and those are interesting in terms of how they implement it. So there is a show active, like close active overlay, and show specific overlay, and you can toggle them from any place of the application. So for example, if we see toggle overlay, we see this one has been jumped. Let's jump to this. And you see it's opened. So we can open the overlays from anywhere on the page. Very, very interesting component. There is also a notification list and notifications. Those are friends of ours which show when we add or remove product from cart. Yes, for example, here we can see that we add product to cart, and here is notification pop-up, and we can click on the arrow, not on the arrow, but on the cross to close it. And it might be multiple of them per page, so they will stack one under another. Interesting. And this is notification and notification list. They have their own special reducer. I believe that's called notification list. Notification reducer. It has some show notification and hide notification actions available. That's also useful when you want to add some interactivity to your application. From the UI elements, we also have an image. Image is a UI element which is responsible for image rendering. It has some internal state in it. It has not loading, loaded, not specified, and not found. And this is useful, for example, if we can't find an image. And where can we see an example? Interesting. So here there will be no example, but if we somehow get image which is not available, we will see that image is not found. But if we don't specify image, we will see that the image is not specified. That's a neat thing, that you can also rewrite those methods in any way you wish. So you would be able to eventually render render anything you want when the image is not loaded or when the image is not specified. So those are front-end placeholders. We also have a link component, which is UI component, and this UI component allows you to render links of different types. For example, it allows you to render an outside links as a link. So it supports a link as div. So if you don't have a link, then we render a div. If you don't have, if this link is like leads to some third-party URL, we can render a normal link. And if it's a link within the application, we render a normal application. And here you can also see that we are using the pathing the class name. So you can also use the BAM mods in order to render a specific to render a link. Yeah, that's a bug. We have multiple props declaration. That's funny. Okay. What else? We have a meta component. Let's see a meta component. The meta component is eventually a wrapper around the helmet, which allows you to supply additional meta tags to a helmet of a document, to a head of a document, for example, like title, description, and keywords. And here is a title. And if we inspect the element, we might see also, we might also see the so here is a meta description, meta title, which are currently not set. Very SEO-friendly URL. Here is the loader, also UI component, which is called by simply is loading or not is loading. It's a prop of it, and you might see it's in action. For example, when we add to cart a product, then we go here and we make a plus, so it's like shows that it's loading. Here it also can be seen, so it's used in multiple places throughout the application. Here, just a beautiful loader which you can manage in any way you wish to. Okay, so and finally, we have a text placeholder. Text placeholder is a simple component which allows you to placeholder a text. This could be visible in action, for example, if we go to some product. So this is a text placeholder, and if it's past the content, then it renders. And here we might see that once again, because we have a not visible variable on the front end, we cannot see it. So it's not being displayed while it knows it's here. Yeah, maybe we can find some product without a color options, then we will be able to pass it. And you can also see that there are no brands currently rendered because the brand is also not visible on the front end. So in order to fix this, you have to go into your admin panel and make an element visible on front end. Let's see how we can do it. Ideally, you can do it in admin. Yes, so you go to your admin, but because it's impossible currently for me to access the admin page. Why? Because I have wrongly imported the certificate. Yeah, we know, everybody knows that we make certificate here. Yeah, like make cert, and you might see that I have done this here. I have made my own certificate, but now I have to import it in a system. Let me show you how to do it real quick. So what you need to do is you write. Let's Google it first. Arch Linux Trust certificate. Yeah, so it was trust. Then you go attach friend trust. Let's see, trust unsure. I'm sorry, unsure. You go for unsure, then you use your certificate, which is located in SRC, not SRC, but in opt. Then you go to the cert, then you go to scandipwa/ca.perm, and then you go trust. You have to call it with sudo. So you call sudo trust extract compatible extract compat, and you pass in your password, and yeah, it's trusted now. So if we reload this page, maybe we'll need to reopen the Chrome. I'm not sure. Yeah, looks like we need to reopen the Chrome. Let me close the Chrome real quick and let me open it back again. HTTPS scandipwa local. Oh my god, it doesn't work. Okay, so looks like I might want to import the certificate here as well. Manage certificates. Here we go to authorities, and I import an authority from projects, scandipwa video OPT certificate, scandipwa CA permission. I import it. I'm trusting this certificate for identifying the websites. And if I now reload, it should at least allow me to go through it. Oh, what the fuck is going on? Let's go to scandipwa.local/admin. Yeah, so here we are. It now works. Cool. Now we need to enter the password. The username is admin, and the password for admin is located in the .application file. So if we cut .application, here we might see that the Magento password is scandipwa123. We copy it down, we paste it in, we sign in. Oh, I'm sorry, scandipwa123. Why it's running on a local host? I'm not getting it. It's very strange. It shouldn't be like this. Once again, admin, and checking the credentials, scandipwa123, scandipwa123, sign in. Oh, it doesn't work. Wow, I don't really understand why. Maybe the URL is not correct, but it's very strange. It's redirecting me here. Looks like the base URL might be set incorrectly. So Magento secure base URL is set. Okay, that's an interesting thing. http://scandipwa local/admin. Will we get here in non-secure way? No, we cannot. Okay, let me go another way. Instead of going into admin panel, we will replace the attribute here. So we are interested in eventually, let's close those guys up. We are interested in attribute code, which is equal to color. We are interested in 93rd attribute, yeah, and we might, yeah. So now we have to go to, we found its ID. Now we choose this attribute ID here. It should be 93. And we should change is visible on front end. Let me find this. Yeah, is visible on front to 1. Yeah. And we also need to find the brand, which is 193. And we go here, 193, attribute ID. And we change it to visible on front. Yeah, sorry, we change it to visible on front. We save it. Now, if we, let me show you. Now we need to ban the varnish. So this is the command that says is my alias and exec varnish. So it's alias for Docker. You can replace this with Docker compose exec varnish admin ban request URL equals to this. Yeah, it gives you no response, but it has banned it. And if we now go to scandipwa.local, we will see that the no request is passing. But if we go to the product, which was previously not working due color missing, we now see that the color will be here. Color is not here once again. I'm so sad. Maybe I used the wrong database. Let me check this out. Okay, let's go here. It's entity type 139. Yeah, ID 139 as well here. We check is visible in front. We refresh it. Refresh this value. Yeah, it's still. Oh, we don't see the brand as well. Let's do another thing. Let's go to the application container and let's clear Magento caches. So I will do Magento cache flush. The doc that says here bash is my alias for 444. Let me show you. We have a docs.scandipwa.com, and here we have useful CLI commands, and here we have the execute of container, which is recommended to be done from the user. So this is the alias for that says here, mine alias, and bash is what I type in manually. So yeah, that says here bash. It's the same as docker compose exec -u user. Cool. Now we flushed Magento caches. Let's exit the container and once again flush the varnish. Let's see if this page will now load with the attributes correctly displayed. If it will not, I will try to index the database, but it shouldn't help. The indexing shouldn't help, because the indexes are mostly responsible for prices, etc. So we now see that the brand is here, the color is here, and this was the matter of setting attribute as visible in frontend. Now we can successfully add to cart. If we go back to woman, we can see that the brand will now be displayed under the product card, and the visual options of the product will also be here, which is neat and cool. So you can see right away which color options are available. If we click here, we see that no attributes are pre-selected. This is the feature of 2.x version. If you choose the black one, now the feature, the option will be pre-selected. So if this pullover was available in black, then it will show first of all here as black, and then if you click here, the black will be pre-selected. And now you can choose the size and add it to cart. But if you choose the size here, for example, I would like to get an extra small, we will go and see that both of those attributes will be now pre-selected. So size and color is now pre-selected. We can once again add it to cart and see that, oh, it's added. So extra small size black and small size black has been added to cart. Cool.